in case you haven't seen any of my videos, I've done quite a few now. Uh, Go to my website, secondhalftransitions.com. And on the Inspiration Station page are all my videos and blog stories and all sorts of good stuff that you can learn from. Um, and today, if you haven't heard my story, today I'm going to go into my story and how I developed my passions as a coach. So, when I was when I was constructing today's talk, I was thinking about what adapting means. And we've been adapting to this ever-changing world around us since birth. We've had to navigate disappointments in childhood until present day, always figuring out ways to shift our mind to make it okay. These are all adapt adapting measures. There are those who accept changes and just move on, and there are those who fight it. And this is why I chose this topic today, because I see a lot of struggling to adjust during this pandemic, and it just breaks my heart to see how difficult it's been for them. And so my goal today is for you to leave the seminar with some new information you can take away to help you adjust. So let me tell you about my experience with adjustment at an early age. Um, yeah, I had to adjust pretty much right away. I grew up, I had a pretty normal childhood, so I thought at the time. I grew up in a typical Los Angeles suburb. I know that all of LA is a suburb, but this one was definitely. I had a mom, a dad, an older brother who was 8 years older, and an older sister who was 5 years older. I was just living my life as a so-called normal kid until one summer day when my dad announced he was moving out of the house. Nobody saw that coming. They never fought. It's like, what? So I honestly can't remember that day at all because the noise around me between my brother and sister and everybody arguing and yelling, it was deafening. I wasn't able to feel or even be aware of my feelings. Um, I was experiencing everyone else's feelings. And that pretty much shaped my course into adulthood. And then the years that followed that day, my home life became increasingly dysfunctional. The roles of my mother, my sister, and myself were formulated during that time. My mother was a single mom juggling a career and her children, and my brother was out of the house. He was in college by then. And my sister was in the throes of adolescence. She was having a really difficult time with adolescence and our parents' separation. And then there was me, the sweet, unaware little girl, lying through her preteen life. But the dysfunction was this ever present battle between my mom and sister. These weren't your normal everyday fights. These were just these horrible, knockdown, drag out, nasty, toxic, vulgar word fights. And these upset me so much. I would disappear from the house until it was safe to come back. And so my role was peacekeeper between my mother and sister. So I had developed a fear then of anger. I just, I feel uncomfortable with anger. I run away from anger. I'm not an angry person. That just, it, it made me not deal with people who get angry. I've learned through my life how to deal with it now, but for the longest time, I just wasn't accepting anger. I avoided all confrontation, and I didn't want to upset anyone. So I spent my teen and many, many adult years pleasantly living my life. I really never developed my passions, nor did I follow any path that defined who I was. It was as if I had kind of morphed into both my mom and my sister's heads and their ways and their personalities. I'm not saying that I completely lost myself. I was just really influenced by them. Just totally. They were a huge influence on me. So I'll never forget. So there were about 10 years in my life in my 30s and 40s. Um, I was a single mom. I was broke. I was struggling. I was a freelancer. I couldn't afford therapists. And what was happening, it was just so strange to me. These analytical thoughts were just coming into my mind at any time of the day. And I'd be like, wow, that was really heavy. And I started looking at these thoughts like, what did all of this mean? And I just was doing my own self-analyzation. And at the end of the process, I realized that I had shedded my mom and my sister's influence and blossomed into myself. I always joke about after I say things like this. Obviously, it was a very profound time, and I was proud of myself. I was proud of what I had turned into, and it was without my sister and my mother. So I was really happy about my newfound independence. So, having finally figured out who I was, I decided to set on a journey to find my passion. I didn't have a passion, and I wanted one. I wanted to to form myself even more. Um, and so I hired a coach, and through the really intense coaching process, I realized that I had always been a cheerleader my entire life. I love listening to people's stories. I would um, uh, cheerlead them, give them advice, support them. It was wonderful. I loved doing that. I felt like that was my role. And so that's what led me to my coaching and seminar business today, where I love helping people find their next inspiration, just like I did. So, thinking about how my story relates to today's topic of adapting, it was clear that I had been adapting through my whole childhood just to protect myself. And I also adapted through my adulthood by developing this happy veneer that might have masked any underlying negative feeling. I mean, I'm not saying that I was never happy. I was happy a lot of the time. But what I was doing is I wasn't looking too much beneath the surface then because I think I was afraid of what I was going to find. And so because of this, because of this, I think that that is what helped me to easily adapt to new situations because I just sort of automatically accepted them. So let's talk about what's happening now in COVID land, now in uh, isolation and quarantining. We've been asked daily for the last 2 months to adapt during quarantine. Everything's changed. We'd never experienced anything like this in our lifetime, and everything's different. And, we have to find our way in almost every aspect of life. Life as we knew it. It was just like, it exploded. Like, what's this? Um, it was confusing. So when the quarantine first started, around my neighborhood. I live in a lovely neighborhood, and there were shops, and it just broke my heart to see all the little shops closing and our wonderful restaurants. Everything was shutting down, and one of the last things to close in the city were the gyms. And I thought, oh my God, I'm gonna die because I work all day, every day at home. And at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, I'm still here. Now what? Um, and so I would go to the gym, and that's how I separated work from life, or work from my home life. So I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? Anyway, my gym did within a few weeks create this online streaming workout program, which is amazing. So I've been doing that ever since. And so that was how I was able to adapt to that. So, paraphrasing Tim Gunn, I made it work. So, what is the takeaway here? Adapting. What is adapting? Adapting is making changes to accommodate what life has presented to you. It's your shift. Uh, no one feels comfortable with change. Change is really difficult. It's tough because we've all created our own bubble of comfort just to survive. If you think about it, everything around you, you've created so that you feel safe and cozy. Um, you've heard of your comfort zone, right? And so I'm asking you to ask yourself, what makes you think you won't be able to create your new bubble of comfort? What are you afraid of? You've created this bubble you live in now, so how about making a new one that's equally cozy? And so I'm going to go into how you're going to do that. Um, it's so normal. We all do that to a certain extent because we want to protect our bubble. But sometimes it's not a choice, like this pandemic. Sometimes we're forced to change, like now. If you think about it, humans have been doing this pretty much since caveman days. Do you think they fell apart when their gym shut down? No, they were forced to go forage for food and they survived. Why? Because they had to. And sometimes we have to too. So, what are some ways you can consciously shift your perspective? Rather than say, why is this happening to me? Take charge and say, what actions will help me to accept this situation? What's going to make me comfortable now? So here's what I want you to do. I'm about to give you three tips on how you do this. And I see that people are on now, so that's great. So if you have your tips, if you have your way of adapting and changing, put them in the comments because other people might learn from you too. And, that would be just really, really great. So I'd love to see you do that. So tip number one, first, try to identify what is holding you back. What is holding you back? It could be a lot of things. Fear, insecurity, anger, all sorts of things. These are a lot of strong feelings that are holding you back from moving on and creating that new bubble of yours. And what these feelings are blocks of your own creation that are preventing your trust in yourself. And this is natural. People do that. I'm going to repeat that because I think it's really important to identify what these are. These are blocks of your own creation that are preventing your trust in yourself. Hold on, I need some water. I got all choked up on that one too. Number two, to avoid having the setback leave you in paralysis, start by making a list of actions you can do to create your new sense of comfort. So, write down, think about things you need to put in place to make your new comfort. Imagine yourself in your new bubble. Like, think about what that's going to look like when you're done creating it. What are you excited about? And what are you looking forward to most about getting there? In fact, this could be like the best step you've ever done ever. You don't know what you're going to expect, but it may be great. It may be really, really great. And you might be happy that you were forced to do that. So, number three, learn to go with the flow. Because if you go kicking and screaming, you're only delaying the inevitable. It would just be easier just to say, okay, what do I need to do to get there? Sometimes you're powerless and you really don't have a choice. So you have to make it work, like the caveman. So these are ways to take control over your blocks, keeping you from adapting. Adapting is all part of your continuing life journey, and it's your way of maintaining power over your situation. And you'll feel much more empowered if you take any action, even if it's baby steps toward a solution. So now, in wrapping up, I promised something in the beginning, and this is how we put together the good things jar and adapting. So you're saying, what is a good things jar? This is a good things jar. This is my good things jar. And I'll show you how to do that. What does adapting have to do with a good things jar? A good things jar is a really simple way to remember that even in the darkest of times, there's a little bit of light. It's a way for you to just accept what's going on so that you're able to see, a positive thing that's going on in your life. I made 2 jars last year for a Christmas present for my husband and me, and we started January 1st. And so I've been doing it every week. I do it on Sunday generally. So I'll look back on the week and I write down what was good. So I'm going to do that now, actually. So, because it's almost Sunday, it's Saturday. So I got my pad of paper and my pen and my jar, and I'm going to write down something cool that happened this week. Almost finished the GoPro challenge in today's live event. And so I'm going to wrap it up and put it in my jar. And so then it's kind of like a time capsule, really. It's cool. It's like a time capsule because January 1st of 2021, we'll open our jars and we'll get to see what was happening, especially during this time. I can't wait to read about this time. It's such a strong and crazy time for everyone. So it'll be interesting to think back, 6 or 7 months, what happened before. So now, when you face obstacles, you have the tools to take charge. I'm going to go over what we talked about today really briefly. So we talked about the importance of adapting and how challenging it is when your comforts are threatened. Number 1, we explored recognizing blocks, fear, anger, insecurity, keeping you from moving forward. 2, how to take actions towards shifting perspectives and looking forward to your new comfort bubble. And 3, learning to go with the flow. Sometimes you just don't have a choice at all. You just sort of have to do it. So this is it. Hopefully this has been helpful to you. I would love to hear your comments, feedback in the comments. I'm going to stick around afterwards if anybody wants to talk to me or if you have questions. If you're in a situation and you want to move forward with your adapting skills or you're feeling stuck and know you need some help, I'm available for one-on-one coaching. You can either write your name and email address in the comments box or go to my website, secondhalftransitions.com. And on the Work With Me page, fill out the form and I'll get in touch with you and we will work out a plan together. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here.